Hi everyone, welcome to the session. Today we are going to do a reading session for comprehension building, and so this is the article that we have at our disposal, and the article basically is about frustrating life of a man of ideas. So probably this is going to be a book review. Okay, I hope that you guys can see the text, and you can what you can do is, or rather what you should do is, go into the website, the Critic, or you can just type in this thing in Google, frustrating life of a man of ideas, the Critic, and you will get the article. Okay, or if possible I will link it also. So what you can do is, maybe you can watch it in your laptop, the video you can watch it in your laptop, or you can open that in your mobile, or you can watch the video in your mobile and open it in this thing. Okay, so what it does is, I'll just read it out for you, a couple of paragraphs, just so that you guys can get a hang of the reading sessions. What it does for me as the speaker is that it helps me elaborate my ideas through the RCs. Okay, I will not zoom in a lot, because it again it takes away the essence of reading, because even in your examination you will not be reading in full caps. Okay, the entire screen is not filled up with RCs and all. Okay, a part of your screen has the reading material and a part of that has questions. So it is better that you read it like this. If you have a mobile phone, that's why I'm asking, if you have a mobile phone, you can do it, make use of it. If you don't have it, probably we can come at an arrangement maybe at a different stage, but this will work the best. Let's see if I have an extension that can help us. Alright, so what I have done is, I've just used an extension by the name of Just Read. You can again get it in Google, the web store, whatever they call it, the Chrome web store or whatever. Okay, you can download the extension by the name Just Read. What it does, it just eliminates all the nonsensical things that are there, and just the article is there. Okay, so let's read this article. So this article is taken from, and please pay attention to the cursor. The cursor will tell you where I am reading. This article is taken from July 2022 issue of the Critic. To get the full magazine, why not subscribe? Yeah, great, we will subscribe. Now this talks about Alexis de Tocqueville. Probably this is a book review of some sort. Okay, I think it is a book review, because you can see the name Oliver Zunz and the life of Alexis de Tocqueville, the man who understood democracy. Probably he has written a book, and this book is gonna, so either we are going to read a review of the book, or we are going to maybe learn about Tocqueville and Oliver at the same time. Okay, so let's read. Alexis de Tocqueville came perilously close to never existing at all. His parents, married in 73, spent 10 of their first 18 months in matrimony in jail. Oh wow. Arrested for a crime of being aristocrats. So his parents were basically arrested for being aristocrats in the French era, probably. Okay. Yeah, French Revolutionary, because the name also suggests that de Tocqueville and all that. Okay, the French people only use names like this, right? So Tocqueville's great grandfather was guillotined, wow, in April of 1794, after being forced to watch the beheading of his daughter and grandchildren. Okay, his newly wed parents were in the queue awaiting the same fate, but the fall of Robespierre in July meant they were spared. So basically I think the authoritarian power that was actually executing these executions, I think probably they just decided not to do that, probably because they got out of power. Okay, so this basically is talking about this book, The Man Who Understood Democracy, the life of Alexis de Tocqueville, Oliver Zunz, Princeton, 28 euros if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Alexis, okay, we read from this point. Alexis, the third son of the family, would be born in 1805 and go on to write not one but two of the most influential works in the history of ideas. His two-volume Democracy in America, published in 1835 and 1840, has been hailed as variously as the first work of political science, a founding text of sociological analysis, and a landmark in the history of political philosophy. So probably what they're saying is, He probably is the first person to have actually ever been documented something which is available in the public domain. I mean, for the first time in the domain of political science, right? It remains a touchstone for those attempting to understand both democracy and the United States, as well as the post-revolutionary France. Tocqueville's animating point of comparison. His letter, The Ancien Regime and the Revolution, tempted to locate the long-term causes of the event of 1789 and inaugurated a school of French Revolution historiography that remains alive and influential to this day. So this basically again is talking about the books and how these books were influential till today. Okay. Now we will read this one. He also enjoyed a moderately successful career as a practicing politician, directly involved in France's tumultuous political upheaval from 1830s to the 1850s, constitutionally frail and racked by the tuberculosis for the initial 9 years of his life before dying at the age of 54, nonetheless packed a lot in. So basically what this line is telling me is that he died in 54 and he was frail and all that. His physical appearance is talking, they're talking about his physical appearance and all that. So he was frail in that way. He was very weak and all. But even with that, he packed in a lot. He did a lot. He wrote 2 books, remarkable work, something of, remarkable quality he did, right? Now the narrative biography, Oliver Jung's, I don't know if I should pronounce it Junz or Zunz. Okay, so we'll probably call it Zunz. Oliver Zunz, the man who understood democracy, succeeds tremendously. Okay, so now this is a narrative biography. So this book, narrative biography by Oliver Zunz, the man who understood democracy, is nothing but a narrative biography. It's talking about the person Tocqueville, right? And yeah, he gives details of Tocqueville's life and the events he lived through, and rendered with engaging clarity the detailed reconstruction of Tocqueville's 9-month trip to America in 31 and 32, especially valuable, shedding a great deal of light on Tocqueville's saw and crucially who he spoke to and took his leads from. Zunz does not shy away from dissolving the myth to reveal the man sometimes treated as though he were a gimlet eye sage. Okay, it's a kind of a, I don't know if it is profane. It is not profane, but it's something like, all those sages who have, that kind of eyes, right? So exact meaning is not required also. Who saw through the very soul of fledgling United States. So basically fledgling we all know, right? So, people, I don't know if I should use this word. During Muharram, Muslims basically fledged themselves. Okay, so that is this thing. Yeah. So fledgling is that. Okay, so it's a whip kind of a thing that you whip your own self. So basically Muslims do it during Muharram or something. Okay, so something that is called self-fledgling. So that is probably, I think that is the contextual meaning of that word, fledgling United States. Or maybe, how United States was, taking its cause or, branching out of US democracy or something of that sort. Zunz shows instead the extent to which Tocqueville tended to take too much at face value, especially regarding he was told by less than impartial interlocutors. Okay, interlocutors, I don't know the meaning. I can look at the meaning, but that's irrelevant. Frequently failing to scratch below the surface of his whirlwind tour. Okay, let's read from there. Thus, for example, he went on to write in Democracy in America that the liberty of the US meant that secret societies were unknown there, entirely failing to recognize not only to the extent of Masonic influence. Mason, we know what Masons are, right? These are, I think these are talking about the Freemasons and the Royal Society, something of that kind of a comparison is happening. The Masonic influence in the local politics, but also how objections to Masonic influences were a core feature of the contestation. A young man dazzled with hustle and bustle of the new world, he tended to see what he wanted to see or what other hope he would. Okay, Also valuable are the Zun's careful reconstruction of Tocqueville's later views on his political career. Tocqueville's sincere and powerful abolitionism is showcased, but so too is his enthusiasm about the colonial rule. So he has, so this person, Oliver Zunz, basically he's talking about Tocqueville's interest or his enthusiasm for the colonial rule. In his support for France's invasion of Algeria and his willingness to subordinate opposition to the slave trade of the French sovereignty in the face of British interference, Zunz balances these things honestly and gave us a fair portrait of a complex figure, one hailing from the time not our own. So basically he's trying to, you know, talk about, you know, he's trying to make things even by saying that, you know, if one says that things were better, these were not our times, these are some other times, some you know. So that is how he is basically, who is doing this? Oliver Zunz is doing this. Okay, so, and whose views are we talking about? The views of that British colonial things were, you know, right and everything else. The invasion of Algeria, France's invasion of Algeria, these are not the views of Oliver Zunz. These are the views of this person, you know, Tocqueville. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Similarly, his reconstruction of Tocqueville's involvement in the government of the Second Republic of 1848 to 52 is particularly gripping, highlighting the difficulties of Tocqueville encountered when running up against the hard truth of being good at political theory is a very different thing from being good at political practice. So this also talks about how this person Tocqueville was very good with his political theory, but he was not a very good politician. So political practice is very much different from political theory. In theory, you have a lot of, you know, power in terms of, you know, ethics and all that probably, but with practice, you know, all sort of malices happen. So now the last part, I think this will conclude the entire passage or other entire you know, article. Tocqueville was above all the great theorist of democratic paradox. Now this is where we started this article from. Let's see if we can sorry, if we can get something out of it. The weakness of Jung's treatment, however, lies in thinness of his coverage of Tocqueville's ideas. To be sure, Tocqueville lived through an interesting, let me see how long, yeah, interesting life than most even by the standard of his time, but the reason we remain interested in him today is because of the lasting influence and the power of his thought, not of his life story. So we are interested in him because not of the influence, rather the lasting influence and the power of his thought, and not his life story. So that is why we are interested in Tocqueville. We are not interested in why he lived, you know, among the maybe he lived a decent life, indecent life, I don't know. We are not concerned about that. Okay. Democracy in America and the Ancient Regime are the sprawling, vast, complex works, to be sure, and no easy summary is possible, but many of the Tocqueville's most arresting and important ideas are either treated by Zunz too simplistically or never take it into the book at all. Readers will learn a little, for example, of Tocqueville's central claim that democracy is two things simultaneously, both a system of popular suffrage but a social condition where privilege has been abolished and equality of conditions. So basically there is a you know, you can see the you know, paradoxical nature of the statement itself. Paradoxical basically means, you know, it in Hindi, I don't think I should you know, convert this thing into Hindi, but it basically means virodhabhas. Okay, you can probably go and search what paradox is. Okay, I know the meaning by heart, but I am a little unable to explain that right now. Anyways, so we'll start reading from this one. Furthermore, what nonsense. Furthermore, Tocqueville was above the greatest theorist in democratic paradox, for example. Okay, and now we will talk about this thing, okay, for example, while democracies elect for poor leader who pass shoddy laws and look forever on the point of breakdown, this hides deeper hidden strength of flexibility and adaptability and of trading short. The term mediocrity in governance for long-term safeguard against the far worse evil of tyranny and Bonapartism. Zunz sanitizes Tocqueville's growing pessimism about the long-run prospect of democracy. His breezy claim that Tocqueville closed his second volume at last on the side of democracy in a way he had not been before is impossible to reconcile with the text. So effectively again he's trying to talk about this idea of Tocqueville and how he manages to, you know, use both the paradox in a similar situation. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now I will not read this one because the second last line anyways will not make any sense, so we'll directly go to the last line. For a book called The Man Who Understood Democracy, it is striking how little sense is given here of what Tocqueville thought of democracy was and why in turn he understood it so well. For all it is undoubted virtues as a narrative biography of Tocqueville's life, the absence of a sustained and serious treatment of Tocqueville's idea means Zun's portrait is frustratingly incomplete. So I know, reading the last line, the author who is describing the book is not very happy with Oliver Zun's way, and he is actually saying that if this book, what Oliver Zunz has written, is about a narrative biography, why is it not giving the ideas of that person? Okay, because it's a biography after all. Okay, so he is definitely not very much happy with this book, but what can you do, right? So okay, so this was it, guys. I think I have been able to, you know, read. I was actually unsure if I would read the entire article, but the fact that, you know, this is an interesting read, so I did. Reading sessions will keep on happening. I will keep on reading articles for you guys. The only agenda for me, you see, I'm not benefiting anything out of it. Okay, I can read and you can see that by reading the articles my pronunciation and all is not improving. I'm doing it for you guys. Sorry, really sorry. Yeah, I'm doing it for you guys just so that you also know that every night or every time that you have time, read an article. Okay, that will help you. So the next article probably we will take is this one. We will not read it in this video, we will read it in probably a next one. Okay, the sublime Daniel Steele for the love of supermarket schlock. Okay, interesting. Okay, a dense read, or what I can understand, a lot of okay, so we probably will have to read this thing a lot. So this is going to be my next reading comprehension. So you can probably just take a screenshot of this one, the sublime Daniel Steele, and you can find the Los Angeles Review of Books. If you just write this thing in Google, you'll get the link. If you don't, you can probably like the video, comment it down, I'll share the links with you. And the third one is this one. Okay, when cities treated cars as dangerous intruders. This one, I think, okay, one interesting thing before I close the session. Some of you guys who are actually, you know, struggling with your RCs, or not RCs in general, but reading essays or anything in general, you can see there is a listen to this article you know, tab. If you just click on this thing now, the website will start you know, narrating the entire thing. Probably somebody like me who has already read the entire article, and you will be, so please make use of this. Okay, if you know, if you do not make use of that, what benefit is that going to give you? Some of you guys can tell me, but sir, isn't it a reading session, not a listening session? But understand why while we listen, we understand what we can, you know, skip. Just like the last the last to last paragraph I did not read at all, because I knew that it will not entail any information. Anyways, thank you. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, you know the drill. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.